Hey everyone, this is Callie. Thanks so much for joining me today. I have a Easter tunnel card to share today and hope you'll enjoy this video tutorial. I'm going to show you how I made this collapsible tunnel card, and it's going to fit inside an A2 sized envelope for mailing. This project is going to use the 6x8 stamp set called Blessings at Easter. It is new from Simon Says Stamps February 2025 release, and I just love this large silhouette set with the floral details and all of the elements. So I'm going to stamp one bunny and the smaller egg, and I'll show you how I add multiple colors to these solid colored images. So first, with the bunny, I'm using butter ink as well as bubblegum ink, and I'm going to stamp with the lighter yellow color first, and since that stamped really well the first time, I'm going to go ahead and go in with the bubblegum ink. Now, my ink pad is a little bit dry, so I do have to stamp it multiple times to get the impression that I want. So I'm going to skip ahead, and you'll see that the impression just gets darker and darker as I go, but I think another 2 impressions between the first impression and this impression. And then I decided to add even a darker pink because I really wanted more contrast in this bunny. So I'm going in with peony ink, and I'm using a large sponge applicator. Now, if you have never used one of these are so awesome. They are sold by Simon Says Stamp, and they're a part of the Rainbow Splash collection. And I like how firm they are, but they grab onto ink really well, and they're great for doing blending techniques like this for stamping. Now, moving on to the egg, I'm going to go with a blue purple color. So this first color here is Morning, and it is a little bit darker than I thought it would be, but that's okay. And it did stamp darker at the top too, so that's where I'm going to add this purple. I'm just going to use a different applicator so I'm not mixing colors, and I'm going to apply the ink towards the top, and my inks are juicier so I don't have to stamp multiple times on this one. I'm also going to stamp some foliage stems, 3 in Lime Malicious and 3 in Fairway. That way we have plenty for fillers if we need to. I don't end up using all 6, but I use enough. And then I'm going to stamp the little blossoms here with some peony ink that I also used at the bottom of the bunny image earlier. So this gives us plenty here to decorate the small shadow box or tunnel card that I'm going to create. And here are the sizes of the panels on screen if you need them. I have the panels layered so that you could see the different sizes better, but they are going from back to front. So the white is what's going to be in the front, and that darker blue color is going to be in the back. And that is the size of the card. So before I put the different layers together, I want to do all the decorating for the box that needs to happen before I start securing the edges together. For the very far back layer, I'm going to add some clouds in the background. So I'm using some surf ink and ink blending it using the Clouds for Days stencil from Simon Says Stamp. And I'll go all the way down the panel and set that aside because next I'm going to work on the other 2 panels. And this one is going to create the 2 layered egg windows. And first I want to score these panels so that I can create my adhesive tabs. And so for this second or middle insert between the back clouded layer and the white top layer, I'm going to score at 1/4 inches on each side. For the top layer, I'm going to score at 1/4, and that's going to be the adhesive tab, and then I'll score 1/2 inch in from that, or 3/4 inches from the edge on each side. Now I have 2 nested eggs, and I'm going to cut these windows into that white panel as well as the light blue panel. This front window is going to be the bigger opening, so I am using the largest egg, and I've centered it and die cut it. And then I'm going to take that middle panel and line up my scored lines because that's where it's going to center these 2 panels perfectly. I'm going to hold it in place, then use the smaller die to center it as perfect as I can. Tape it down so that I know exactly where I want the smaller egg to be cut from that center panel. So I've taped it down, made sure it's not going to move, and I ran it through my die cutting machine, and here is our second window. Now before I build this tunnel card, I want to add some extra dimension and texture to the front of my card. So I'm going to run this top window through the Floral Butterfly Bouquets embossing folder. It gives it some tulips and butterflies on the panel, and I think it's super pretty. Now this paper is going to become a little bit more flimsy because the fibers have broken down with the embossing as well as score lines, but that score line is still faintly there. So I'm going to carefully burnish these folds with my hands, and that's going to be just perfect. I don't want to damage this too much because it is a little bit flimsy, but I'll fold back all of the score marks just like so. Then I'll do the same with the blue panel that I scored a 1/4 inch from. Remember, these are the adhesive tabs, and it's what I'm going to use to add adhesive to put the box together. So I'm going to burnish that with my Teflon bone folder on this one since my paper is a little bit stiffer. And then to make sure that those tabs don't really show, I'm going to cut an edge off all of those tabs. So just a tiny little bit, and they don't have to be perfect. I am just lining up my scissors with that score mark on the paper and cutting a small corner off each of those edges. Okay, so I will clean everything up, and now we're going to line up the front edge with the back edge because that's going to wrap around the back so that we don't see the adhesive tab when we look through the window. I hope that makes sense. So I've got the inside of the front window facing up right now, and I'm going to add some red line tape. It's double-sided adhesive that's super strong, and it's my go-to for any interactive or box style projects because I know it won't fail on me. Otherwise, I'm using liquid glue. Okay, so I'm taking that cloud panel and lining it up with the edge of that score line for the front of the window. And so that way the adhesive tab is behind that cloud panel. Then I can work on the second panel, and I've added adhesive to that, and I'm going to line that edge to the edge of the cloud panel. And that's going to create a 1/4 inch distance between the back panel, the middle panel, and the front panel. So I'll do the same to the other side, add more adhesive on the other tab. And to make this close perfectly, I'm just going to fold over the front, and it's going to be like closing a book. And that's going to secure that tab in place and make it perfectly distanced for that 1/4 inch distance from the front and back. Then to close the box, I'm going to remove the adhesive lining from that back tab and fold it over the back of that cloud panel. So this is also going to ensure that everything collapses nicely, and we know that there's not going to be anything in its way when we go to collapse it to put it inside an envelope. So now that this tunnel card has been formed, I can go ahead and die cut all of my stamped images and adhere them in place. So this is going to be the fun part, putting everything together and creating this little scene on the tunnel card. I'm adding a bit of adhesive here because I want to adhere it on that middle layer window. So there's going to be some dimension for this bunny. And to give the scene a bit more interest, I also use these grassy edges dies to die cut 2 panels of green grass, and they are cut a little bit less wide than the box itself. So I'm just going to slide these grass panels in so that they're visible, and it's okay that they don't go all the way to the bottom of the box. I just wanted to make sure that these details are visible when you look inside the windows. And then I'll add the smaller, lighter blades of grass in this middle panel, and then I'll be ready to add the rest of the images. I'm going to add this egg to the back of the front window. And I'm doing this for 2 very intentional reasons. 1, because it's going to make that front window a little bit sturdier, and 2, because it creates a little bit more depth perception. So we have lots of images that are going back on all of the layers. So I am going to finish off the front of this panel by decorating it with the foliage and the little flowers that I stamped. And I'm just loving all the bright and springy colors on this card so far. And the only thing left to do is to stamp a sentiment. So I'm going to use some bubblegum ink, and I'm going to stamp Happy Easter from the Blessings at Easter stamp set. And this also comes with coordinating dies, which I absolutely love. So I went ahead and die cut that off camera, and to make it easier on myself while I'm adhering this down, I'm just going to push my box down flat, and that just makes everything so much easier. The glue is going to attach itself to the paper better, and I'll hold it there for just a few seconds until everything adheres nice and sturdy. So this tunnel shadow box card is done. You can leave it like this and just write a message on the back, but I'm going to adhere it to a note card. This is going to allow you to write a message on the inside of the card, and it also acts like a stand for this box to lay back on when it's being displayed for any reason at all. I love that this card collapses and fits inside an A2 sized envelope, and that way when the recipient receives it, they can open it up, pull the card out, and pop it back up for display or to enjoy. And that completes today's tunnel card video tutorial. If you're interested in any of the products that I used or color combinations, be sure to check out the links below in the description for this video, as well as on the coordinating blog post. Everything will be linked for your convenience. Thanks so much for spending a part of your day with me, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye, everyone.